When we hear the words food prep, it can be super common to get bogged down in thinking you have to have a very elaborate plan. What I'm going to show you in today's video is some of those things that I prep on a regular basis. That could be weekly, that could be monthly, bi-weekly, whatever it is. So I like to make a list ahead of time as best I can using my calendar on what the meals are that I'm going to make for the month. I have those capsule meals, and if you haven't watched my video on building a capsule meal plan, I will link that in the show notes as well as above. But the reality of it is there are some foods that we eat on a regular basis. I make homemade turkey sausage every week or every other week, depending. I love to make quiche muffins that I keep on hand frozen. I do paleo muffins. I do a lot with red peppers and onions and spinach. And so I'm just going to show you some of the simple tools that I use and methods that I use on a regular basis so that I never run out of these items and I'm not scrambling for the ingredients that I need to make my scrambles. So today we're going to focus on onions, because who doesn't use a lot of those, red peppers, and then spinach. Now, as I am shooting this video, I am about to go live for my Jackie's Kitchen Confidential live cooking show, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any of those. And today, we're going to be making lemony, zesty Italian meatballs. And so it's a perfect time for me to show you some of the things that I will be using, which are, of course, as I mentioned, the spinach, the red pepper, and the onions. So the first thing that I'm going to do is red pepper. This is one that I've already partially used. I actually do peel off all the pieces of it because all of it is great and can be used. I make sure that I remove the seeds and any of the inner stuff because we don't want that. And then for the recipe that I'm making this time, I'm going to be making zoodles. And so I'm just going to cut these in little slices that are going to resemble noodles. So I'm just going to cut these all up, put them over here. And now I've got the second one. Same thing, that stuff. Now, if I were just going to be prepping these, chances are I might also dice them small. And again, looking ahead, it depends on what it is exactly I'm going to be using this for. So I could have prepped this way ahead of time. I could have even frozen it because when I'm making it for zoodles, it's not the same as vegetables that are fresh. And I like to use all of it, so I don't particularly care whether it has the little curly cues on it. If you're using this for entertainment and you want it to look super pristine and perfect and Instagram worthy, you might do that. Although I will tell you, by the time they cook up, they won't look exactly like this anyway. So use your best judgment. Now, if I were prepping more, what I would probably do, and this is what I quite often do, is I will come home with 4 red peppers from the grocery store, and I will prep those. I will slice and dice up exactly what it is that I need for the week, and then I will simply freeze the rest. So these are frozen, and this is a combo of chopped onions and the red pepper. And I love that because I can just grab one of these out if I'm making spaghetti, if I'm making any kind of pasta, my soups. I use this in a whole lot of stuff, including my turkey sausage and a lot of Italian dishes. I do the same thing with spinach. So every week I do a refrigerator clean out, and any spinach that I might have that's about to hit its limit, I will simply throw it in one of my silicone Ziploc bags and I will freeze it. This goes great in soups, stews, sausages, anything where it's going to cook up, and I also use it in my husband's smoothies. So next up, we're going to get the onion ready. And again, this is part of an onion that I already used. So I'm going to slice off all the rest of the skin. And this is also going to go in my zoodles. So I'm not as particular. This doesn't have to be sliced and diced to the same length and standard as the red pepper. I just want these kind of loosey-goosey to where they're going to be intermixed in there and taste great and give it that good oniony flavor. Got to be careful there so you don't chop up your fingers. So that is enough right there for my zoodles. It's plenty of onion. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and slice up another onion into diced pieces because I have other dishes that I'm making this week. I will store it in a glass container or a silicone one. Typically I store it in glass when it's in the refrigerator. And then I kind of do the same thing, although I will tell you with onion, I don't think I've ever thrown onion away from not using it. But I will do the same thing as it gets toward the end of the week. If I feel like I'm not going to be using it, or if I'm going out of town on a trip, then I will just simply throw it in the Ziploc bag, just like I did here, maybe by itself, maybe with other things, and freeze it. Now we're just going to dice up these onions as small or as large as you want them. If it's something where you kind of want chunky onion, depending on how you like your onion, I typically like mine diced up pretty good. And see how short of amount of time that it really took for me to do this? Now it's done. I can simply store it. And then if you're busy, you're a working mom, you're a working dad, or you are busy doing a lot of different things, you don't have to overthink a lot of these. And who doesn't use onions a ton in our everyday cooking? This is a great task that you can get your kids involved in as well, depending on their age. I'm simply going to get out one of my glass storage containers. Pop it right in there. Oops. See, you don't have to be perfect, especially when you're on video. You just have to know how to clean up. And I do know how to clean up. I'm quite proficient in that. Going to throw all of that in here, and it'll simply go in the refrigerator, and it'll be there for me when I am ready to use it throughout the rest of the week. I'll be making my turkey sausage, as I mentioned. I am doing some chili verde pork, so I will be using this. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do in preparation for my zoodles is chop up my spinach. And again, this is going to go inside the meatballs. So make sure you go back to my lives and watch my Italian sausage meatballs so you see how we do this. But I'm going to chop this up pretty small. We want this pretty fine for this particular one. Now, if you are making quiche, if you are making any of my pre-done muffins, my Vegtastic muffins, or any of those type things, as we've talked about before, for simple on-the-go meals so that you can stay healthy and nutritious, you can do this ahead of time. Again, I often buy a large container of the spinach, and then I will slice and dice it up and store it in these smaller packages so that they're ready to grab and go out of the refrigerator depending on what I'm going to make. And I'll do that, as soon as I get home from the grocery store or in the time. I am a Sunday planner. So Sunday is when I do most of my planning for my content, my videos, my marketing, all of that. And it's also when I do my food prep for the week. So that week I will sit down and I will look at the calendar. What do we have going on? What nights are we eating at home? What other things are on the calendar? And so what do I want to plan for? And what leftovers do I have? What do I already have in the freezer? So I try to do a monthly freezer clean out as well, meaning I make a lot of multiple meals. Now that it's just my husband and I with the empty nest, if I'm going to make enchiladas, I will make them and freeze them in smaller portion sizes like this. I will put enchiladas in this size and freeze it, put a little label on the top of what it is, and then I have great meals ready to go. All right, so this is pretty much diced up small enough. My recipe calls for 3 cups. I'm only going to use about 1.5 cups because today, because I'm doing a freezer clean out, I only have 1 pound of Italian sausage And the recipe that I use calls for 2. That's one of the ways that I keep meal prep simple. I know those condiment type things, those spices, those extras that I use on a regular basis. And so I always make sure I have these fresh in the refrigerator or frozen so that I never run short of these if at all possible. Make sure you grab my guide over at lowertoxiclife.com. That will also put you on the list so you get the email reminders of the Jackie's Kitchen Confidential YouTube live videos. And if you have something special that you'd like to hear about, please put it in the comments below. Give me a like if you would. That helps put this out into the algorithm and into the news feed of other joyful, healthy, nutritious cookers and eaters like you and me. And as always, I appreciate the time that you spend with me on these videos.